Okay, we're live on the YouTube channel, Philly Jawn. We're live, Instagram. Good day, people. Welcome to Philly Jawn Podcast. We're going to talk about gun violence, gun control, and how is that going to help the nation. As we can see, there's a big debate, marches, and people are ready to give up their freedom, seems like it. They say that they want to give back their guns, stop all these massacres that we're having. But it seems like for years inside the inner city, African American, Latinos, and even some white people who are caught up in the inner city are the victims of gun violence. But there was no alarming plea or march to say, let's get rid of guns. It didn't start until all of a sudden, and you have to put it that way. I mean, it started with these white males going into these white environments and shooting up people. And the same thing with the heroin epidemic. If we look at that, now it's an epidemic, it's a health crisis, it's things of that nature. But it only changes once, the color changes. And it's evident. We've had a ton of African Americans shot and killed by police officers with no kind of anything happening to them. They go to trial and that's it. But I'd like to know how y'all feel. Comment, like, share, comment. Good, bad, or indifference. Hit us up on our YouTube live channel. We're live on Instagram. And you can check out the podcast at phillyjawn.net. If you'd like to call in, 215-218-8942. Yeah, we do accept calls while we're live. 215-218-8942. It's a live podcast going on. We're talking about gun violence, how it's affecting America, how it's affecting our schools. I mean, it's a hot topic right now. It's so hot that people are willing to basically give up their rights. I mean, let's talk about gun ownership. How many is it a big difference between African Americans and white people with gun ownership? Like, how does that pan out as far as the numbers are concerned? That's something that we would like to look at, because what happens is you get a call to start giving up guns, but we're still disenfranchised in this country. And that's just a reality of what it is. As I stated earlier, we still getting shot by police. This happened last week where police shot the guy in his yard, and it was supposed to be some kind of cell phone or something. But they said it took him 7 seconds to make that decision that he had something that would harm him. I mean, I understand gun control, but most of the guns that we see and we're seeing being used are actually obtained through legal ownership. So how much more control, or how many more laws do you need, or as they say, how does that work? You know, man, I'm trying to understand, how does that work? That so many people can look at things and say, well, I'm just willing. It says, according to the Pew social studies here, the demographics of ownership. Let's look at this. Currently, 30% people, African Americans, own guns. So it's a small number. Handguns are the most owned weapon. 72%. A rifle is 62%, and a shotgun is 54%. These are not my numbers, people. As I say, I'm reading from the PewSocialTrends.org. PewSocialTrends.org, and it's the demographics of gun ownership. That's what I wanted to look at. I wanted to understand actually who does it affect. And we say, and we jump on a bandwagon and say, let's ban guns, or let's change the laws against it. How does it actually affect us as a group of people? Um, they say 3 in 10 Americans, adults, say they currently own a gun. And another 11% say they don't personally own a gun, but live with someone who does, among those who don't currently own a gun. About half say they could see themselves owning one in the future. So check it out. I want to understand. Man, can I get a comment? So somebody tell me how they feel about uh, gun ownership, or if they would, in the lights of what's going on, would they actually go purchase a gun? Um, how they feel. But I can tell you right now, by just my eyesight and going into a place like Cabela's, which is not that far from me, it don't look like they're hurting for business. Cabela's is at the point where it's like a deli counter. You take a number, and they have chairs, and you wait in line, sometimes up to an hour, to get help to buy a gun. And people are in there waiting to buy guns. So I don't think none of this is like, you have people who are staunch and they wanna own guns, and you can put all the laws in the world. It doesn't matter, because people are going to go buy and obtain guns. And like I said, all of these things that have happened, these young men have obtained these guns legally. That's the reality of what is. The reality of what is. But the big thing is AR-15. Everybody wants to talk about that AR-15. Armor light rifle. It does not mean assault rifle. It's an armor light rifle. Shoots one bullet at a time. And yes, there are things that you can put on there to aid you in making the trigger pull faster, but it's not an automatic, and it's a rifle at the end of the day. The look of it may scare you or upset you, but it's a rifle. It's no different than, to me, if you buy a fast car. A Mustang is a Mustang, a Corvette is a Corvette. Yeah, it goes fast, but at the end of the day, it's still a car, and that's all it is. It's a car. So a car is a machine, just like a gun is a machine. You need a person at the other end to actually operate it and cause mass destruction. So I think the bigger problem and the bigger thing is, what's up with these people who make these decisions to go out and kill and cause mass destruction? Like the one young man that was doing the bombing. When they locked him up, they said he was disenfranchised with his life. He was upset. That's crazy as shit. If you ask me, that's crazy as hell. Like, what is going on with your life that you decide to start sending bombs to random people that have done nothing to you, and you just decide to say, okay, I'm going to send them some bombs, I'm going to blow myself up, I'm going to do all this craziness. I think that's the disconnect that we have, is The disconnect is a disconnection from reality. I think video games may play a part, TV may play a part, but there's definitely a disconnection from reality about taking a armed weapon to a place and shooting people. And I stated this one time before in a previous podcast, you're taking a soul. All right. Besides the physical form of life, you're actually taking a soul. And, for you to get up and have no kind of qualms or thoughts about that, you're deeply troubled as a person, and I don't see where laws and different kind of barriers would actually help that. And we don't know who's troubled because a person can be going to the radar, have the legal age, and get up to date and go to a store, fill out the paperwork, and legally buy a gun. I mean, a handgun, a rifle, whatever. Take that with the ammunition and then walk into any public place and start shooting with no prior, there's no prior anything that warning or we knew or this. I mean, it's just the way it is. Unless you're willing to just say, and we're going to give up all our rights and just say no guns, period. Everybody does. The only people that have guns are the police and the military, which would be a lopsided society in my eyesight. I don't trust the government to that point that I would just say that I don't want to have any weapons whatsoever. I have nothing to defend myself. I'm at the mercy and the will of the government. If you're willing to do that, and that's what you feel as though that, hey man, go ahead and do it. You know what I mean? Maybe it's time for some of us to exit stage left and get out of this country. I don't know, but as it says in the same PewSocialTrends.org, white men are especially likely to be gun owners. About half, 48%, say they own a gun compared with a quarter of white women. Non-white men, 24% each, and 16% of non-white women. So there's more white owners of guns than there are minorities. That's what this is saying statistically. And then there's an education gap also, which I don't know if you can say I have an education and I own guns. So I don't know if this is actually true because some people who are a little bit more astute, as I would say, they may not answer these questions. They may not want people to know X, Y, Z or what side of the fence they're on. And so I can't say this is true. It says, like the gender gap, the education gap in gun ownership is particularly pronounced among whites. Overall, about 3 in 10 adults with high school diplomas or less, 31% and 34% of those with some college education say they own a gun. A quarter of those with a bachelor's degree or more say the same. Among whites, about 4 in 10 of those with a high school diploma or less, 40%, or with some college, 42%, are gun owners, compared with roughly a quarter of white graduates, 26%. There is no significant difference in the rate of gun ownership across education attainment among non-whites. I mean, and I know people will say, well, what do you got to bring up everything is black or white? Well, we live in a country that's racially and segregated on a social construct of race. That's the reality of what it is. Everything that we talk about is about race. Everything that we do in this country is kind of race based. Even the guy who was heading the march said that he felt as though the media didn't give the correct coverage to his African American counterparts who were there at the same march, marching about the same subject. So I don't know why that is the case. I'm not in their mind. I'm not in their body. But this is a reality of what is going on, and I'm not jumping on that bandwagon to say, give up my rights. I'm not doing it. I don't see it. I don't understand it. I think that there should be some parameters maybe put in place more than what we have. Maybe, a 30-day wait list across the country, period, to own a gun, along with maybe some type of interview uh, with precursor questions to see if you may have any psychological, social, or ill will to do anything with a gun. I mean, I don't mind waiting if I buy a gun 30 days because, like I said, I don't have any malicious intent, none whatsoever. And then it says this: 3/4 of Americans, and I guess I'm one of them, who currently own guns, 73% say they cannot see themselves ever not owning one. And this is the case among the majorities of gun owners across the demographic group. So this is across every group. Anybody that owns a gun, they don't see themselves not owning one. And I think that it's not a position of having power, a position of it. It's a reality of what is that you cannot expect the government or government entities to protect you at every turn. You can't. So you and then some people use them for hunting. I started using guns. I think I was 13 or 14 years old. I started hunting. I came from a family that hunted, fished, and I've caught deer, rabbits. I've eaten from the wild. So I can't say that it's a thing of it's purely for protection. I went to hunter safety classes, and I was taught very on at a young age that guns are not nothing to play with. The deadly effects of them, and I think that's what's missing when you play a video game and you're able to just shoot things and kill things, and you don't understand the effects of what those bullets can do and how that those souls and those lives are taken and people are hurt. You don't see that within a video game or some kind of animation. You just don't see it. So I think that's one of the bigger problems that we have, you know. But like I said, check me out at Philly Jawn Live on YouTube, Instagram at one Philly Jawn. Email us at onefillyjawn.gmail. Please like, share, comment. Check out the podcast at phillyjawn.net. Direct link, phillyjawn.net. And, if you send me some questions or through email or you comment later on, I will, on the next podcast, answer your questions. Or, like I said, good, bad, or indifferent. This is something I always say. Like, comment, good, bad, or indifferent. Because your thoughts and your opinions are yours and you have a right to them. And, this is just a medium that I come across to communicate and how that I deal with everyday life, how I walk through life. And I thank all of y'all for listening. And anybody that this reaches, I thank you for listening. But your comments and your interaction is greatly appreciated. At the end of the day, gun violence is it's a sad thing. It is very, very much is. But when we look at the inner city, I think Baltimore had something upward of 300 something murders. Philadelphia, they're in the hundreds. Camden, New Jersey, Chicago. I mean, some of this stuff is like people are living in war zones, and nothing is said about that until a group of children, and which is tragic. And don't twist my words, or like I'm not trying to make this or downplay it. It's tragic. It's tragic. But every day, most African Americans are living in war zones, and they're seeing gun violence every day. I mean, there was a story just 2 weeks ago out of Baltimore, Maryland. A young man was shot. Ambulance picked him up. The shooters continue to shoot at the ambulance. That's a war zone. Young man was also in a funeral procession. They jumped in the funeral procession, shot the car up, and killed him. These are like war stories that the people in the inner city are going through with gun violence. But it doesn't, to me, get that much light unless it's, per se, 17 people all at once when that same area may have 17 people hit at once. But throughout the year, a city may have hundreds. So, I mean, and it's just like drugs, I don't know. We're banning something When people want it, they tend to get it. We've banned drugs in America, and they still have a drug consumption problem. That's one of the bigger problems. We have a drug consumption problem. We have a gun problem at this point with young white males who want to be, go on massacres and killing sprees. But you ever notice there's never females. That's a disproportionate thing with that. You never hear females of any really race or killing like that. So is it a male aggression problem that we have that needs to be looked at? Why are males more aggressive or to the point that they're willing to kill and maim and hurt people to solve whatever problems they may have going on with them? Um, I like to hear it from any of y'all, that's out there. Anybody that's watching live, let me know how do y'all really feel about this, uh, these gun bans. If it's going to work, if it's necessary, or is it we have a psychological people problem that needs to be addressed? How are we going to handle this? The NRA, they're staunch advocates of, not giving up your amendment rights for gun ownership. They fight and they lobby heavy against it. But those same people are never around when stuff happens within the inner city with these same guns. Uh, I wonder if the technology is here at this point that we can basically maybe put some type of fingerprint trigger mechanism where the gun only works to the person who it is actually, you know, sold to, and the fingerprint matches or something like that. But that would only work with illegal guns because in most of these cases, these guns weren't illegal. They purchased the guns legally. So that's where you get back to how do you go about uh, trying to figure out what do you actually do? What laws can be actually put in place to stop a person who, one, you don't know what's in their mind, you have no understanding of their intentions, what they're going to do. Um, you have no idea what's going to happen, and like I said, they can walk in legally and be the most sane, uh, God fearing family person, and they decide the minute they walk out that store that I'm gonna go X Y Z and I'm gonna just start shooting and go on a rampage like some mad crazy person. How do you actually put laws in place to defend against that? Because it just seems like anything you're just gonna keep more bureaucracy, more government, and you're just going to keep putting all these laws in place, and people are just going to find ways to circumvent, you know, X, Y, Z. Um, like I said, drug use is at an all-time high. We have what we were calling a health crisis for heroin. The Mexicans are bringing in heroin 100 miles an hour, and they're making millions or hundreds of millions of dollars per day off the sale of drugs, and nothing is stopping them. No laws are stopping them. Uh, President Trump wants to build a wall. We don't know how successful that would be or how that would actually work out. But, you know, how do you deal with it's a human problem. You're talking about dealing with people and their, human problems. How do you deal with that? How do you put something up that will make a person almost goes back to that movie. I forgot that movie that they had out a couple of years ago where they could like stop crime before it happened because they could read people's brains. Maybe I don't know if the technology is that advanced, but man, when it gets there, it may be too late. But we need something, man, to know what these people are thinking. And like I said, you can put up a million laws, and they just check off the check. Well, okay, I cover this, I cover this, I cover this, I cover this. And then what we gonna say? Oh, we need more laws. We need more this. We need more that. Or are you going to join the bandwagon of saying that basically we'll give up everything we have, you know, just not to have guns? But then that's industry. That's people with jobs. You can't afford to put more people out of work and mess up the economy. So that's not going to happen. The NRA has a big lobbying, and that's money for politicians. So that's not going to happen. So at every turn, you have to look at it. This thing is about money, and it's bigger than you and I. It's bigger than a march. It's not just going to go. It's from the, it starts from the birth of this nation. This is gun ownership is from the birth of the nation. I'm not going to say that it can't stop because slavery was at the birth of the nation, and we don't see that today. So um, yeah, it could stop, but I'm just saying that is at the birth of the nationship. Pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness, and that's a part of a person's happiness. Is to own, make decisions on their own ownership of what they would like to own, and if it's a weapon or if they decide to drink because that's illegal now. Same thing as with cannabis become illegal. That's a part of people's pursuits, and they're how they see the world and how they look at the world, and everybody looks at it differently, and they have a different outlook and a different thoughts about it. So, like I said again, I thank y'all for joining Philly Jawn live broadcast on YouTube. Uh, Check out the podcast. It'll be rebroadcasted at phillyjawn.net. Check out our Instagram at one Philly Jawn. Please like and comment. We try to keep these recordings to at least a half an hour, uh, no more, no less. Um, so I thank everybody for joining me. You guys have a great day. Please check out t-shirttrack.com for any of your graphical or needs. Is where we bring ideas to life. So, as I say, and I thank you, and you have a great day. Carry on, people.